Okay, let's talk about the Aufbau principle. Now, what the definition of it is basically the Aufbau principle is the order or the way electrons fill up the lowest energy level. What they'll do is they will start at the lowest energy level and they will move to the highest energy level. So they start at the bottom and they move to the top. Electrons fill orbitals in the order of, we see our S, P, D, and F. So they will start at 1s and they will move up in energy level. So we see this is the traditional way that you'll see the Aufbau principle written, and this is the order that we have, and you're more than welcome to do this one where you have your 1s, your 2s, your 3s, your 4s, 5s, 6s. And basically after you draw everything out, you draw these arrows and you follow your arrows, and that's the way that it goes. Okay, so in looking at this order, we see that we start with our 1s, and then after we do 1s, we go to 2s, and then 2p, 3s, and then 3p, 4s, and then 3d, 4p, 5s. And then we go 4D, 5P, 6S, and that's the order that we follow. Now, the periodic table, the reason why that we have it, and it's a very good tool that we can use, is usually a little bit easier. So let's go back to our periodic table. And remember, we drew out our S block, our D block, our P block, and our F block. Now, what I've done is, remember, I went here and all I did was I wrote down the energy levels over here, and that's where you see all the energy levels normally on the periodic table. Okay, those are the periods. Now, the only trick to this way is you have to remember that on D block you subtract 1. So 4 minus 1 is 3. So you go 3, 4, 5, 6. That's for D block. And then F block, you subtract 2. So this guy would normally go right here. So 6 minus 2, that'd be 4, and then 5. And if you just write this out on your periodic table, it makes it really easy. Because then, you know, the Aufbau order of filling is just all you do is you start at the top and keep going. So we see that we see our energy level is 1, and then here is your S. It starts in S block, and you have 1 and 2. And then after 1S, what do you have? Well, you come back over here, and it's 2, and then you have S again. And then you keep going, and it fills, and that's 2. And then what block is this now? It's P. And you keep going 2P. On all those guys will be 2P. And then you come back over, that's 3, and then S. And then you keep going, and that's 3P. Then you keep going, you get 4, and then S. And then, remember, since we subtracted 1, that's 3, and then D. And when you get done with the D's, you go this. Remember, what is this? This is 4P. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you come back 5. And then what block is this? S. Then 4D. And after 4D, that's 5P. Then you come down here and 6S. And then after 56, you have 57, and you go 4F. Don't forget these guys down here. And that follows the Aufbau principle as well. And Aufbau principle is just filling order of electrons, and it starts at the lowest energy level. It starts with your 1s, and it works its way up. Either way you remember it, whether if you do the lines or you look at the periodic table, the Aufbau principle is just showing us the order of that. So let's do an example. It says the orbitals, or our suborbitals, we have px, py, and pz are said to be degenerate, and so they have the same energy level, and it says which will be filled first. Now, when we're talking about the sub levels, your x, your y, and your z, those we really can't tell which one will be filled first. We just know that the P will be filled first. So the P, it'll go in one of these since they're in the same energy level, and it can go into the X or into the Y or into the Z. It doesn't matter which one, as long as they're the same energy level, it can fill in. Our next example, it says the electron orbitals listed below are completely filled. Is the Aufbau principle violated? So when we're looking at this, we're saying that it is filled in this order. Okay, going from 1s to 4s at the end. Is the Aufbau principle violated? Well, if we look at our periodic table, we see that we're supposed to go 1s, and then 2s, 2p, 3s, 3p, and then it should be 4s, and then it should be 3d. So when we're looking at this example, we see that it went 1s, 2s, 2p, 3s, 3p, and then 3d. And that 3d is actually supposed to come after the 4s. So yes, it does violate the off-Bob principle.